Welcome to the BetUS Soccer Channel. I'm Flash. The occasion is the Champions League final. The venue is in Paris and the date is Saturday, the 28th of May, 3 o'clock Eastern time. That's 8 o'clock in Europe, 9 o'clock in some place in Europe. And we cannot wait because two of the most historical clubs in world football ever, and that's probably why I said historical, is Liverpool versus Real Madrid or Real Madrid versus Liverpool. We've got so much to go through. We're going to have a little look at all the odds. We're going to look at the first half, the corners, the cards, anytime goal scorer, method of victory. So make sure you get yourselves in the chat and have an input. Also, we will have a Q&A before we do the official pick. But first of all, we are America's favourite sportsbook, so we'd like to ask you to subscribe and get us closer to 10,000. It won't be a long way off because we're the home of soccer betting. Also, I'd like you to ring the bell, and that means you'll never miss any content again. And if you are on social media, please follow @BetUSTV, because every platform, every sport that we cover, there will be some kind of guideline in there for you. Okay, from European soccer or football, it's the Queen of Serie A, it's Mina Rzouki. And from the Premier League and award-winning owner of We Love Betting, it's Mark O'Hare. One of these two is going to be pro-Madrid. One of them is going to be pro-Liverpool. I'm just going to sit in the middle and basically hear the arguments. Mina and Mark, welcome. Mina, ladies first. What a final.
Oh, my God. It is going to be so fantastic because I don't know what to discuss in this because in my head, Liverpool is the most complete squad in Europe, you know. They only just narrowly missed out on the Premier League, but they took it so close. They've already lifted 2 trophies. They have a team that they can rotate with such ease. They're so fantastic to watch. They have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. They came out from the group of death, and they've really showed you how valuable their squad is. But then I look at Real Madrid, and this isn't a side that I think to myself is made up of excellence. I can honestly tell you most of the time I watch their games, and it's their ability to thrive under pressure. So it is that ability to thrive in chaos as well. So here it is. I think Liverpool are the best squad in Europe. I think they have one of the best managers in the world. But perhaps from a psychological point of view, from what Real Madrid has witnessed this season, from highs and lows, they might just be, on a mental level, better equipped for this final.
Mark O'Hare, I don't think anyone's going to argue if you was to say that Liverpool were the best side in world football through the performances they've put up, especially in the Champions League, and obviously running Man City so close in the Premier League. But on the other hand, playing devil's advocate, a lot of people are saying that Real Madrid's name is on the cup because they should have been out of this competition 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, they should. I think each of the last 3 rounds of knockout football, Real Madrid have been second best, but they've managed to find a way. That's football. That's knockout football in particular. And at the end of the day, this is a one-off game, and anything can happen. I think we've all been around the block enough times to notice that the best team doesn't always win, particularly in knockout football. So, yeah, you have to bear that in mind. For Liverpool, I think they were looking a lot rosier a couple of weeks ago, but a few key injuries have kind of raised a few doubts. And but I think the good news really is Jurgen Klopp was talking on Sunday after the match against Wolves and suggested that Van Dijk's been on the bench the last 2 games, so he is fit and available if needs be, and he will be playing this weekend. Salah came off the bench and scored. Fabinho's been training. He's just joined back in with full training with the team this week as well. So those 3 are fit and available. But to then goes and lose Thiago is a big blow, really. He does set the tempo really in midfield. But I know people have been talking about an element of fatigue with Liverpool as well. And I guess that's understandable when you've played every game available to you across all competitions this season. But I just think, you're coming into a Champions League final against Real Madrid. You're not having to travel too far. It's only across to Paris. You've had a full week to rest and prepare for this match. It's the Champions League final. I'll say again, you don't need players to raise themselves to one sort of last hurrah, if you like. And I'm going to be pro-Liverpool, cat out of the bag early doors there. But I think they are the stronger suit. And, as you mentioned there, Flash, Real Madrid have kind of survived, if you like, through the last couple of rounds. And I think they will meet their comeuppance at some point.
Okay, listen, it is so evenly matched. Let's have a look at the numbers, because I'm going to be mentioning numbers from you in the chat and what your selections are. So we're going to have a little look at the full game odds first of all, because I think that these should be a bit closer. But Liverpool at plus 100, Real Madrid a massive plus 260. Over or under 2.5 goals, with the over being at minus 135. Team total, Liverpool scored twice at minus 115. Real Madrid to score twice at a massive plus 175. Mina, take it away. We're going to start obviously with Real Madrid. And what numbers on there do you think are not quite right? Because if you fancy Liverpool, you're going to get good money. And if you fancy Real Madrid, you're going to get good money.
Usually finals tend to be tightly contested, and you always think to yourself there's not going to be actually that many goals. But I think these two teams are very attack minded. I trust Liverpool's defense much more than I trust Real Madrid's, and yet I trust Real Madrid's attack even more than I trust any other team in the world. So I think this will be a goal fest. I think that when I look at this, there's a part of me that wanted to take the plus 260, but that's for the 90 minutes, right?
Yes.
And that was why I wasn't sure, because Madrid, for me, are a team that come alive sort of in the last 10 minutes of that game, take it to extra time, and then that's when they try to wallop you. So you could go both ways with over 1.5 for both teams, to be honest with you, because I do see a lot of goals in this match. I can see 4 goals in this match. Whether or not they come in the 90 minutes, though, that's the only thing that would stop me. I look at this team and I think it's about the drama, and it's about the chaos, and it's about how much Liverpool can maintain the discipline of the sun, because as long as they play their game and they maintain a disciplined edge to this team and not let Real Madrid descend into chaos and try to bring down the whole game with them, then they can win this. But that's what Madrid do so well. From a psychological point of view, they have overcome the toughest of opponents because they know how to provoke and poke. And I think that what they've been through this season is much more than what Liverpool has been through in terms of only the Champions League, not everything else, because otherwise Liverpool have been magnificent. And I think that perhaps they have learned tricks along the way on how to really try to shake the opponent ahead of them. But I think from a personnel and a physical point of view, it should be in Liverpool's hands. So perhaps money line plus 100 is where I'd go for that.
Okay, what about the draw then at plus 275, Marco here? Do we expect this to be really, really cagey? Remember, this is your first graphic. This is the full game odds. We will be having a little look at the halftime odds, and obviously then we'll start looking into cards, corners, anytime goal scorer, and method of victory. But Marco here, you're pro Liverpool, so at plus 100, I'm suppose you've got to be quite happy.
I am, because they were minus money when the draw was made. They've drifted because of those injuries, and I don't think the market has completely corrected itself with the news that Van Dijk and Salah are probably going to play. Liverpool are a very different team without one of those, if not both of them. So if both were missing, of course, there's going to be a drift there. But yeah, I think I'm pro Liverpool, not just because of their ability and for all the reasons Mina's outlined in terms of the squad and having Jurgen Klopp as a coach, but also the price, because they're basically going off the same price as they were in the FA Cup final at Chelsea, against Chelsea at Wembley. And also, not just that, they're the same price as Man City were when they went away to Real Madrid in the second leg of their Champions League tie. And if you remember rightly, Man City were leading the tie, so they didn't even need to win that second leg in Madrid. And the market is telling you that Liverpool have got the same chance of beating Real Madrid in Paris as Man City did in Madrid. So, I know people and the market certainly suggests that Man City are the better team out of themselves and Liverpool, but I think most of us would agree that the gap has closed significantly, if not completely, over the past 6 months. So yeah, I just think in terms of the odds, there's a bit of value there in Liverpool to win. I also think it's a point I've touched on a few times across the whole campaign, really, is just the dominance of the Premier League now. This is over the last 5 finals. Premier League teams have filled 6 of the available 10 slots. Only 2 of those have been filled by La Liga teams and Madrid on both occasions. There has been a power shift away from Spain towards England. Obviously, money's been driving that, but also having that money's been able to bring in the best coaches in the world, really, as well. And I just think Liverpool has slowly but steadily built together a fabulous squad with so many different options. And, in this competition, you get the opportunity to use 5 subs too. And I just think Liverpool have got a bit more about them. But I do expect them to win the trophy. I would be happy to take that plus 100. but without being completely disrespectful to Real Madrid as well. I think it's worth bearing in mind that when you see their starting 11, star quality, experience, character, they've got it all really. But I think from a negative perspective, if you're asked for Real Madrid's best players this season, Benzema, obviously everyone's going to say Benzema. Modric, brilliant. Vinicius has matured wonderfully. Militao and Alaba have formed a reasonable partnership. But if we're being frank, I think Courtois has probably been their second best player this season, not just in Europe, but also domestically too. And I think that kind of goes to show that they're not actually quite as dominant as Man City or Liverpool are. And how many times are you going to let these quality teams off the leash? Really, if you look back to the last two ties against Chelsea and Real Madrid, the two Premier League teams generated an expected goals tally over 10. Real Madrid just 5, and I think they gave up 5 big chances in both of those ties as well. So basically 10 big chances went to waste from Man City and Chelsea. I don't expect Liverpool to be quite so generous.
Okay, well, I think we like Liverpool at +100 for Marco Hare. I think Mina's like in the over 2.5 at -135. I think Real Madrid double chance at -120 is another way to go. Remember, I'm not hedging. I've got Real Madrid at +1900 to lift the trophy. I'm quite happy to go that way. Now then, okay, so that's us. We've sorted with the full game. Remember, at the end, we'll have a best bets graphic. That'll be after the Q&A. So make sure you've got plenty of questions, because I can see in the chat already that, we're taking 1-1. There's a lot of 1-1s out there. Some people think that there'll be over 1.5 goals in second half, and that's at -104. Remember, Liverpool -150 just to lift the trophy. Let's have a little look at the first half odds. So the first 35 minutes of action, as you can see there, Mark's gone for the money line at +100. That's good. Thank you, producer, for letting me know that that's happening. That's tops. Okay, Liverpool +170 to be leading at half time. Real Madrid at +280, and this is where I think the draw may come in at +115. You expect end to end. I think that they might feel each other out. And if you know me, in a final, draw at half time, plus money, +115. That's where I'm going. Mina, who do you think strikes first? And if they do, who strikes in the first half?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I couldn't figure this one out. So I stayed away from the first half. I bet on the second half. For me, Real Madrid are a better team in the second half because they're dependent on a pragmatic coach. So when you are dependent on a pragmatic coach, then you are relying on his tactical adjustments. So this is him reading the game and then figuring out ways to try to close the gap if it's a superior team, and how to bring out the best in his own one. So that's why for me, Madrid are much better in the second half. That would tell you, and that would suggest that Liverpool would be the team, in my feeling, that would score first. But I think when the pressure is on, Liverpool can be a side that will feel it out, that will see what's going to happen and try to do something more in the second half. We saw that against Inter. We saw that against several times, really, when it's been tough on them or when teams have defended against them. Real Madrid are not capable of really staunch defensive style of play. So I don't think there'll be a problem there, which is why I think Liverpool could open the scoring. But if they do, then I put more money on Madrid winning it overall because of that comeback. So probably money line +170 is where I'd go. I think there's more of a chance of that, or it could just be a draw at +115. Looks quite healthy and tasty as well.
No, it does, Marco Hare. So let's look at, do we expect more than one goal in the first half? Because one's a push, or do we see 0-0, in which case the +115 definitely comes in, or we could go a little bit bonkers and say it's 1-1, and then we're looking at both teams to score in both halves.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. I don't tend to do many bets in the first half just because I don't like losing my money after only 45 minutes. I'd rather the whole hour and a half.
Quite a safe bet in finals, though, isn't it?
It is. I agree with you, Flash, about kind of almost blindly backing the halftime draw and kind of opposing goals in a final. And the goal expectancy for this match has been set at 2.85 across the 90 minutes, which is high for a final. It's higher than the average goals per game in the Premier League game as a quick kind of comparison, really. And I think, not just the total goals, but you can look towards the total goals and find your kind of prices in terms of the half-time market. And I look back to the start of the Champions League era. We've had 29 finals. 15 of those have featured at least 3 goals, 17 of which have seen both teams scoring with an average of 2.59 goals per game. So the market expects this match to be above average, but the last 3 finals have all gone under and all seen both teams to score no bank as well. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. You could easily see this game being a bit of a basketball type game, a bit of a shootout, but also I kind of probably would verge more towards your side, Flash, and say it's going to be tight and cagey to begin with at least, and therefore I'd probably look towards the half-time draw. Rather, I wouldn't be backing over one first half goal personally, but it's not really a kind of area I do much of my punting.
Okay, well, if you think you know the way this game's going to go, then Liverpool are probably going to go with high press. Real Madrid are going to sit back in formation. I'm really solid on this because I just feel as if it's going to be a draw at halftime at +115. But I wouldn't put anyone off of Liverpool, obviously stealing the ball, and at +175, I'd rather go for that than the full game because we know that Madrid have come from behind against PSG, against Chelsea, and against Man City. So listen, they are a 90-minute side or a 95-minute side, but I've gone with draw half-time at 115. Now then, let's see if we can get a pattern of play here, because we're going to have a little look at the corners, because this is an interesting market because the number looks low to the naked eye. The total is set at 9.5, and that's -105 or -135. Mark O'Hare, do you fancy the over or the under?
I'd be more on the over side. I think corners are tricky at times because they can often be led by game state. Obviously, if the game's in the balance, there's more likely to probably be an average number of corners. If a team's trailing, they're obviously going to be pushing, and vice versa if they're losing. So there is a bit of a kind of degree of randomness when you are betting on corners. But the totals over the last few Champions League finals kind of show that as well, actually. Last season, we only had 4 corners between Man City and Chelsea. And in previous finals, 8, 17, 14, 2, 6, 14, 15, 14, 18. So in theory, 6 of those 10 saw a minimum of 14 corners, and the overall average across the last 10 features 11.2. So on that basis, the 9.5 line's been set a bit too short. And look, Liverpool very much are a corner-heavy team. They play front foot, aggressive football, pressing football, using those fullbacks very, very high. Lots of balls into the box, Trent and Robertson in particular doing that. So they average over 7 corners in both the Premier League and the Champions League this season. They've hit 7 or more corners in 4 of their 6 Champions League knockout ties. Only won 2 in Villarreal in the second leg, but that was a different type of match. So I'd personally be looking more towards the individual teams here rather than the actual total. You can get -125 on Liverpool over 5.5 corners, which I thought was reasonable enough. Man City won 9 when they played in Madrid in the second leg. They won 5 in the first leg. Chelsea forced totals of 10 and 5 against Real Madrid. PSG won 7 in the first leg. So I do expect Liverpool to do most of the heavy lifting. And if you do expect them to do that again here, you can actually back Liverpool -1.5 on the corner handicap as well on BetUS at a reasonable price as well. I think it's about -110, which basically gets you paid out if Liverpool have 2 or more corners more than Real Madrid in the match, which I think is fair enough.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those though, because both of these defences, all the defenders, especially the central ones, they love a block. Keepers, they don't catch, so they like to parry. They're both top draw keepers. I think the over at -105, I think we see 10 corners. It's not something that I've dived into, but the more I think about it is maybe you do it live. It's available live at betus.com, but maybe we get a slow start. That 9.5 comes down to maybe 7.5. And then second half, it really wakes up. So I wouldn't be on the over 4.5, over 5 first half, but maybe over 9.5. You might just get a couple of corners in your favour. Have we got any views, any Mina here? Because again, the corners, that means that we're going to need to see attacking football. But both these sides, apart from maybe Vinny Jr., they always like to cut in. And I prefer we get corners when they go on the outside.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I do think that what you get a lot more in these types of finals when the pressure's on is that you get no-nonsense defending. And sometimes it's like, it might just be, like, let's just do the clever thing and just get it out, before having to put ourselves in. But of course, you do concede a corner, which is quite difficult sometimes to defend against. For me, in my head, the way that I thought about it is that I think that Vinicius Jr. is somebody that provokes quite a few corners. I actually bet on Madrid corners at this point. I'm firmly in the belief that Liverpool can get about 7, but I also think that Madrid can get about 4. So It's not let's say it is a little bit of a risk because you never know. Like I said, it could just be that they do have a great goalkeeper, and so they will take a little chances, and it will depend on how much of the ball Madrid will actually see, to be fair. But I do think they can get more than 3. This is about no nonsense defending, and when you look at the pace of Vinny Jr. and up against Trent, I wonder what will happen and whether he'll stretch wide or anything like that.
And that's not to mention Benzema pulling the trigger with no backlift. I mean, he shoots on goal from when defenders are so tight. So deflections over the bar, keeper saves. Listen, I think that the over 3.5, you'd almost make that. Marco, here, you've got to see Madrid getting 4 corners in the game. That's almost a banker at -110 that you can build other bets around, thinking that that's a certainty.
I wouldn't describe it as a certainty. I think
4 corners over 90 minutes in a game where you think that they're going to be able to hit them on the break.
You'd be surprised about Madrid's corner totals themselves.
Yeah, they don't get that many.
They only managed 9 corners across 4 games against Chelsea and Man City, Flash. So even asking them to get 4 in the Champions League final, well, they are outsiders. It's a decent enough.
Well, they're outsiders in your view. They're not outsiders in mine.
Well, they're outsiders by the market, aren't they? Massive outsiders.
Can you make it head nor tail of that? Do you not think they should be a little bit closer together?
Also, can I just point out that one of our reasonings behind why we thought Chelsea could win is because last year they did. Last year Madrid won, and the final Madrid won. So actually, when you look at the last 6 matches, it's kind of been Real Madrid heavy against these 2 sides. You know, this is pretty much the same team that defeated Liverpool last season. I know people will say, well, they had some issues, you know, with absences, but it was also Zinedine Zidane, who's more of a defensive nature, and this is Carlo Ancelotti, who I would say is somebody who's has been tremendous when it comes to these types of pressured situations. So I feel like the odds are a little bit weird to a team that has won that many trophies.
Yeah, and also Marco here, I think that there's massive strengths and weaknesses with both of these sides. I mean, I think Liverpool could get caught on the break in between that sort of right centre half and Trent Alexander-Arnold going forward, and on the other side, obviously with Robertson going forward and also that big gap going in there. But if it doesn't go in there, then Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson are probably 2 of the most lethal weapons in world football as a tandem. So, I mean, this is a crazy game. But I see -110, Madrid getting 4 corners is massive. Okay, let's move on to the next subject, because I know, Marco, how you love this subject. You love a bit of yellow. And if you can have a little tint of red thrown in there, then all the better. Because we've got Liverpool over 1.5 cards at -135. So we think that we're going to get 2 for Liverpool. Under 1.5 cards is at -105. So a bit of a coin flip. Over 2.5 cards. So if Liverpool to get 3 cards is massive at +275. And under 2.5 cards, they're saying Liverpool don't get 3. Marco here, do you like Liverpool getting 3 at that massive price?
No. To be blunt about it, you know me, Flash. I absolutely love my cards. I love card betting. The biggest disappointment coming into this final was the referee appointment, which is Clement Turpin, the French referee. He's got this gig. He's a poor official in my view. He definitely isn't a punter's friend if you're looking to back overs in card markets, and in fact I'd probably do the opposite, to be honest. And look, it's a Champions League final. In 6 of the last 10 finals we've seen no more than 3 cards in 90 minutes, and I believe, nothing official, but I just believe that there's a directive from UEFA or whoever is in charge, presumably it's UEFA, to ensure that these kind of big occasions don't get ruined by red cards or major incidents. Go back to the Euros, we saw loads of fouls, loads of players let off cards, and you know, football fans seem to enjoy that element, but from a betting perspective, it was a bit of a disaster, and you know, it's seeped into this season as well. Look at the Europa League final last week with Rangers and Frankfurt. There could have been 3 or 4 cards in that first half, all of which were waved away. Leniency was the order of the day, really. So, and I think when you have a reasonable referee in charge, which we did in the Europa League final, and the way in which he kind of dealt with things, that would worry me. So Turpin is one of those who just doesn't have the personality really to control games, and sometimes he does get overawed by the occasion. So you'll get weird patterns where he gives 0, 1 cards, 2 cards, and then other matches where he gives a flurry and a load of red cards. He did Porto Atletico in the group stage, which is a great example, where he just lost his head towards the end and chucked out 3 reds. But You know, he did Italy's exit in the World Cup qualifiers to Macedonia, a match where Macedonia were incessant time wasting, gamesmanship, the whole lot really, and he gave one card in the whole game. There's just no rhyme or reason with him. So if we had a total card line for this match, which would be set around 3.5 for this game, considering where the market is, I'd be going unders. And just because it tends to be a trend now in finals to try and keep the low card count down, and possibly opposing Liverpool cards as well, just because they don't normally get them. So yeah, it's quite dull really if you're looking to back overs, but I'd be probably going the opposite way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be contrarian here because obviously you are my cards guru. But the big thing is, is when you have so much pace and the likes of Alexander-Arnold getting caught may bring cards. But we have to then say, Mina, that there may well be a UEFA directive, because last week in the other final, which was the Europa League final, I mean, listen, I see a player have 20-odd stitches and a head wound and didn't even get a yellow. So I'm wondering if they've been told, well, under no circumstances, do not be giving yellows in early part of this game because you cannot come back from it. I mean, the over 2.5 at plus 275. If Liverpool, yeah, listen, I'm going to go with you, Marco, here. And also, if you see corners up there, that's because that was our last category. So again, when you're looking back on this, you can go back and scroll across, and we're on cards, go back, and that's where the corners were. Mina, you fancy yellows and maybe a little red?
Well, I feel like you have to have sort of a team that, I mean, when I think of cards, I think of teams that time waste or will look for edges in other ways, you know, or have provocative members of the team, you know, Atletico Madrid. But when I think of these two sides, I think that their game gets better with fluidity. They don't want too many interruptions. They're not necessarily provocative figures. I mean, I know perhaps Madrid a little bit more than Liverpool, but I see this as being a rather professional game. I do know that what Mohamed Salah said has been taped to the dressing room inside Real Madrid about him wanting to sort of level things out, considering what happened to him. And I wonder if that's going to provoke anything or from any of those Real Madrid players. But I see this being a game that's going to flow, and two teams that really just want to win, and convincingly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I couldn't agree more. So let's have a little look at any of the officials, because I know that Marco here jumped on a price that has actually moved against, because he was Marco here. What did you not have? The under here we go. Liverpool under 1.5 cards at minus 105. Are we still able to look at maybe some Madrid cards? Because if we fancy that Madrid are going to get a couple of yellows, I fancy there's more chance of Madrid getting a couple than Liverpool.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, well, let's have a look at this one then, because this is over 1.5 cards at minus 210, but the over 2.5 is at plus 170. So if you think we're going to see 6 cards free from each, you're going to get massive value. Mina, who are the main culprits when it comes to Real Madrid picking up yellows? Are we looking again at Sadio Mane and Salah, and we're looking at them causing problems to the fullbacks, or are we going to get the nasty veterans in midfield sticking their foot in?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Carvajal, it's usually the players that are under the most amount of pressure, you know? I mean, when you look at Carvajal against Mbappe, you sort of said a little prayer for him right at the time, right? And I feel like you're going to have to say a prayer for him on this occasion as well. So it's those, Casemiro will be very much required to show his strength in midfield. Again, possibly a lot of pressure on him as well to do something. But really, those would be the two players that I would say most inclined to actually get that. I don't necessarily see it from Ferland Mendy, although I think the pressure will be sublime on him as well. But I think he will be able to handle it a little bit more. So, but again, I don't see over 2.5 cards. So that's why it's probably at plus 170. I think they know where the line is and they don't like to cross that. So this isn't a team that has the Pepes and the Ramoses. It's a little bit different now, because if you remember, or you'll cast your mind back to the PSG game, there was a moment when they were hassling Rodrigo and they left it alone. They didn't want to engage into a fight. And I think that shows you what the directive is from Real Madrid, at least. Marco
here, Real Madrid, main culprits and main candidate for picking up yellow, please.
The same two that Mina's outlined. Carvajal for sure. I expect Luis Diaz to be on Liverpool's left with Sadio Mane down the centre and Salah on the right. And that kind of really excites
No
me.
Jota, no Jota, no Firmino.
No, that's the front three I think it will be. I mean, I might be completely wrong, but I think they seem to be Klopp's preferred front three now. I think Diaz has done enough to get in play, get that starting berth, and that really excites me. Not combination, but that duel really against Carvajal. Carvajal was brilliant in fairness in the second leg against Man City, but as Mina's pointed out, against Mbappe it was a different story, and Diaz is full of tricks, isn't he? So that would be quite interesting. And yeah, obviously Casemiro in the middle. He went through a stage in his career where he was just escaping with yellows week on week, whereas I think now with age it's kind of caught up with him. He seems to be getting yellows every other week now. So I think he'll be charged with breaking up play, and obviously will get himself into trouble at some point, whether he gets away with it or not. He did in the first leg, I think, against Man City. Bizarrely managed to get away from a yellow card by just pretending he was injured for about 5 minutes. But again, that plus 170 looks like a big price, and I normally probably would be looking at it, but just go back to the referee, Turpan, the Champions League final. I don't think he's going to be too keen on dishing too many out.
Yeah, okay, so basically on this cards section of the show, we've just got the one selection, which was Mark O'Hare's. He's going under 1.5 Liverpool cards. We're leaving Real Madrid cards alone, and I think that was at plus 125. It's now like plus 105. I mean, the money has really piled in. So make sure that you get over to betus.com, because the numbers, remember, we're doing this on Monday to give you 5 or 6 days to try and beat the market and to watch this back, because there may be something else that moves in your favor, and it gives you a chance to not rush in, because the only people that rush in are fools. Okay, let's have a little look at our next category, please. Anytime goal scorer. So I know that a lot of people like this. It's not just them four, but these are the main protagonists. Karim Benzema at plus 130, Salah at plus 110, Diego Jota at plus 150, Sadio Mane at plus 160. Can I have a little look at some other contenders, please? David Origi coming off the bench at plus 210, Firmino at plus 210, Luis Diaz at plus 210, and here's the other one, Vinicius Jr. at plus 225. Yesterday, Mina, he was plus 310. We've nearly lost 30% of his value. Plus 310 yesterday, now plus 225.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But it just goes to show you. I wonder, because for me, I think they're going to be both the tactical weapons in this, because Vinicius Jr. and Luis Diaz, for me, are the two relentless cogs in the system. And I think they're just going to be on a tactical level there to just keep going, to just keep provoking, irritating, pushing, moving the team further forward with, on a tactical level. You have to, when this player is relentless, and those two have the energies for miles. So I like both of them to bet on Vinicius Jr. or Luis Diaz. But also there is a part of me that thinks they're more deliverers. They are the ability to play in the final third, their ability to deliver the final third. Personally, there's one person I can always depend on, and it is a player that I think should win the Ballon d'Or, so it's Karim Benzema. When I saw the price, I was like, yes, I'm going to go for him, because he is desperate for that trophy, desperate to show that he's still the king. And now that we know for sure that Kylian Mbappe is not going there, he wants to make it up to Madrid more than anything, that he can be the guy that can deliver whatever it is, and they don't need a superstar. So he is their own. So that's the person I've gone for. But I know that you like Vinny Jr.
Of course, because I think he's going to be an absolute weapon. And I'm going off of what happened between Liverpool and Chelsea in the FA Cup final, when Chelsea got in through that left channel. And listen, Alonso could have had a couple, Pulisic could have had a couple, and I just feel that's a massive weakness because of Trent being on the front foot. But Mark O'Hare, there is plenty weapons that are going to be. Do we know what colours these are going to be wearing? Is it going to be Liverpool in red, Real Madrid in white, as they should be?
I hope so.
Yeah. Who do you fancy to get a goal? Because the other one I wanted to throw in was, and this is a big price just for a bit of fun, is that from set pieces or from third man runs, was Casemiro at a massive price.
Yeah, I think Real Madrid have a good opportunity at set pieces. If Van Dijk is missing, I think if he's there, he's such a great organiser that Liverpool should, in theory, be a lot stronger from dead ball situations. But I think the top of the market's always interesting. Salah, to me, is always a little bit too short. I know he's on penalties, which is an added bonus, but plus 10 and plus 110 is it's quite shy really for a Champions League final. Benzema plus 130 is on penalties and set pieces, or he'll have a say in as well. So that's always on your side, but I do prefer to do a bit more digging. And Mane, I thought was interesting if he does play down the middle, plus 160. But you know, the bigger prices do appeal to me more if I'm having a play on the anytime goal scorer. So Vinny Jr., yeah, I think I really liked him at plus 310 as he had yesterday, Flash. So I've gone down for Diaz at plus 210. The same price as Divock Origi, and we know that Origi's definitely not going to start. So and almost double the price of Salah. So I know he's not on penalties, but I think he's added a different dimension to this Liverpool attack, and I think you know what you're going to get from him, really. He can play a real leading role. He likes a dig from distance when needs be. He'll cut inside and take players on. Just a wonderful signing. Just saw a lot of him playing in Portugal earlier in the year and really liked him. Felt like it was a big move, but the way in which he settled into the Premier League has been wonderful, really. I actually think he's being a little bit undervalued in those prices at plus 210, considering the goal expectancy of this game is quite high, and Liverpool are plus 100 favourites. So, you know, add it all together, I expect him to be below plus 200, but he's not. So I think that's a nice value price to be cheering on.
Yeah, plenty value. Let's have a little look at all of us, because we've all gone for a little anytime goal scorer just to put you in. Listen, it's not inconceivable all of these come in. Benzema, anytime goal scorer at plus 130. Vinny Jr. at plus 225. I want to punch the screen, to be honest, but no, not in an aggressive way, just in a frustrating way. That it was 310 yesterday. Luis Diaz, anytime goal scorer at plus 210. I like Casemiro, and I suppose you could also go for Konate as well, or Van Dijk. Okay, now there's the final bit. Method of victory. What do you fancy? Because it's Liverpool in 90 minutes at plus 100, as we know, in 4 games. So let's just kick on. Liverpool in extra time at plus 1,000. Liverpool on penalties at plus 1,100. Real Madrid extra time plus 1,400. And Real Madrid in penalties at plus 1,100. Mark O'Hare, if this goes to extra time, then Real Madrid at plus 1,400. They saw off Man City and they saw off Chelsea in extra time.
They did. But I don't know. It's not something I would normally back on. If I'm normally getting involved in this market, tight matches, which I expect to be quite close and competitive, which this game really should be in theory, I would rather than back the draw in 90 minutes. I would be backing either team or both teams really to win on penalties at plus 1,100. I think that's always a big price to cheer on. Rather than back the draw in 90 minutes, I can't remember what the price it was. Back both teams to win on penalties. Yeah, I mean, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? It's one or the other. And surely you go down the plus 1,100 route on both. I don't back extra time. I hate extra time as a football fan. I don't know what it is. I just maybe it's I've had an hour and a half, and to go another half an hour, I'm gassed. So I'd like to sort of switch off a little bit. But yeah, if I'm having a bet here, it'd be both teams to win on penalties rather than either or.
Okay, before I go to Mina, remember to put the thumbs up, show a bit of appreciation to everyone, including my graphics team, who have gone absolutely bananas with all of these graphics. Mina, how do you see, or do you not like any of them? Or is it Madrid win 90 minutes? It's big price, plus 250. I had them down as being maybe plus 210 top whack.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the two obvious weaknesses are Dani Carvajal and Trent in a defensive manner. I think just because you're facing Vinicius and obviously you're facing Luis Diaz, I think it's going to be really tough. So I do see goals in this. Now, the way that Antonio Pintus, the fitness coach of Real Madrid, trains them is that they go in spurts. So they have downtime and then they attack. They have downtime and then they have attack. So it's about conserving energy. So they have highs and lows throughout the match. And usually it starts off slowly and then starts to build. They're actually a better team as the game approaches the end. So I like Real Madrid at the latter half. I mean, you see how many comebacks that they've managed this season. It is through tactical adjustments. It is the ability to introduce youth, whether that's Camavinga from the bench. Obviously, Valverde always is there, always relentless in his manner. But it's also their ability to keep possession at the end too. I fancy them just because of the way that they're trained to do something in extra time. Of course, their history says so as well. But they are a side where if you just give them just a sniff of a potential of a win, they're likely to do that at the end. When it comes to penalties, however, I'm more inclined to go with Liverpool. And that is because they did introduce a company. They have had talks. about what it is that is required from a mental point of view to help enhance their abilities in penalties. And we've seen already how that's paid off with them with the trophies they've lifted against Chelsea. So it goes to show you that when they have had penalties, they've been able to really lift that approach, believe in themselves, and not waver. I feel like when you think of Real Madrid, they've lost their 2 penalty takers over the years in Sergio Ramos and Ronaldo. I think Rodrigo is actually fantastic in taking penalties. So that's one thing. You have Benzema. He hasn't missed one, but he hasn't really taken all that many either. So when it comes to that, I trust Liverpool and the investment they've made to make sure that they win their penalties. But I fancy Real Madrid extra time at plus 1,400. That's crazy. And it's, to be honest with you, it's not a bet I've taken, but I look at it now and I think, knowing how they train, that is something that they'll go for. So it's worth a punt, right? It's so.
I know. Well, I don't think I just, because obviously I'm pro Madrid, but again, it's these two sides are absolutely top draw everywhere you look. I mean, the only advantage I would probably give to Real Madrid is the midfield three. I think that if they're playing Cruz, Casemiro, and Modric, I think that them three are going to dominate. Obviously, there's no Thiago. Do we know if Fabinho's going to be right?
Bring on Valverde and Camavinga, and
and they can change the game late on. That's the other one. And I saw in the chat that a goal after 75 minutes is like a minus 110 or plus 110. That could be absolutely massive. Let's have a little look to see if we've got any selections here on method of victory before I go and invite you to any questions and answers. Okay, so we're going to skip on now. So if you've got any questions, now is the time to type them in. Before that, I'll remind you that we are America's favourite sportsbook. So I'd like you to subscribe and also ring the bell, means that we will notify you and never miss any content again. But we're going into the summer. At BetUS TV is the Twitter page to follow, please, because they will make you aware of everything that's going on. So make sure that you do that. Right, here we go. Let's have a look. Penalties are all luck, says Ibrahim. David Seaman says Real Madrid to lift the trophy is the safest bet to be made. I think that's around plus 150. I know that one of my experts has gone for that. Thiago and Fabinho both doubtful to play. I think Thiago is out. Luis Diaz will empty. The other problem I've got is Liverpool have had such a long season, and Real Madrid, they've been sitting up for like 3 or 4 weeks now because they knew that they'd won the title. So
against them, they're a momentum team. I was worried, and that's why they played quite a full squad against Betis, because they want to get momentum back into those legs. They're a team that likes to not sit down.
Jorge Valdez says Madrid to lift the trophy at 19-1. He's also on that, same as me. Mitch says Mo Salah to score first, unless his nickname for Benzema is Mo. Christian James says, will Madrid park the bus knowing they can't take Liverpool straight on? I think they could take them on. I think they could. I think that midfield, but also I do believe that they do not want to leave the space in behind for the likes of Salah and Mane and Diaz, because they're so clever, them three. They could interchange and they could pop up absolutely anywhere. Okay, let's have a little look at the best bets, and then we'll try and explain, and also we'll try and maybe add Mina, Madrid over 3.5 corners at minus 110. Absolutely love that. Mark, Liverpool money line plus. I don't like that. Mina, Benzema anytime scorer at plus 130. Mark is Luis Diaz anytime scorer at plus 210. What Colombia would have done for having a few of his goals in qualification. I think they had 6 or 7 nil-nils. Liverpool under 1.5 cards at minus 105, which has moved 30 cents. Plus 125 yesterday, but that wasn't the biggest mover, because the biggest mover was Vinny Jr., anytime scorer, plus 310, now plus 225. And I've gone with a little plus 700. Draw half time at plus 700, with Madrid winning the second half. So draw half time, Madrid full time at plus 700. Draw half time is always a factor for me in finals. So if it's not a draw at half time, both of them are dead in the water. Both teams score and over 2.5 goals at plus 100 for Mina. Second half, both teams score at plus 190 also for Mina. Madrid to lift the cup at plus 140 was plus 150. Sorry, Mina?
Substitutions. Both the team has a great squad, both of them. So bench players will make the difference.
I totally agree. And with this massive pitch, by the way, it's a wide pitch, good players, they're going to play on it. There's going to be big spaces. So you want to be seeing this game out. Okay. I think that's us all wrapped up, and it's a massive thank you from myself and everyone on the BetUS team, whether you was watching La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, or the Premier League. We will be back in the first week of August. Maybe we'll do some future shows because they were quite profitable last season as well. Marco here. I would say have a great holiday. There you go. I know you're going on holiday. You're catching a plane or you're leaving in about 7 or 8 minutes. So we've timed that just right, just for you. And then listen, if it doesn't go your way in the Champions League final, then you know that it's gone well for others. All right. So be happy for others. Mina, if it doesn't go well for us,
it's gone well for Mark.
Then someone's on holiday really, really enjoying himself. So, and everyone in the chat, we really appreciate your knowledge, and we also appreciate how kind you've been with your fellow typers in the chat. So from everyone at BetUS, Mina, honestly, it's been absolutely brilliant having you, and I hope you'd rejoin us again next year. Marco, you've been absolutely great in both Premier League and Champions League. So from everyone at BetUS, enjoy Paris on Saturday. It's the Champions League final. You take care.